When you have like such a heavy base in education and scientific education, how did you translate it into economics and computer science? Like, why did that happen?
If you see economics and computer science, it's like highest paying jobs in New York.
Oh, really?
No. Like, let me complete this. It's like
Okay.
highest paying jobs. So my friend, he keeps telling me this. You were a social entrepreneur. He gives me like a title in a one sentence title. It's like a social entrepreneur to a complete sellout.
Oh, you selling your soul to the devil, Suhas.
दुमकटे सांप सा दुमकटे सांप सा बिलबिल आ जाएगा
I don't think that's true, but yeah, like being sold out to different companies.
But there is merit to it, right?
Yeah.
The highest paid jobs are not highest paid just because they're highest paid. There is, you are doing a fundamental service to, or at least that's the way I would think about it. Is like, you know, when you say it's a capitalist system, and there's a landscape of the way people are paid for what they do, and right. I don't necessarily think so. You are essentially going to be a part, if you do follow this path out. You're going to be a part of something very, very fundamental to the world's economy at that point, right? Computer science is where the world is heading. In fact, very soon I feel like computer science is going to be redundant too when AI science comes in, right? And with economics, you were getting into finance. You were helping people manage their promises, because money is in form of promise,
but
right?
wait. Economics means I'm not getting into finance. That's
Oh, okay.
something. No, I don't wanna. I mean,
You don't want to be a finance, bro?
yeah, I don't want
No?
to be finance or a tech person working in like big corporations. So I'm using computer science and economics to actually again become a good social entrepreneur. Like, of course, non-profits, the policies, everything comes under economics.
The umbrella of economics always
Yeah,
affects it, right?
So that's the reason I'm doing economics, but I'm doing CS
Uh-huh.
for a major reason that how I can support
Mm-hmm.
digitalization of education system or
Right.
digitalization of different policies that Indian education system makes, or
Right.
maybe in sustainability. So it's good. Like, of course, you said technology awareness is like must for any student. So
Right.
that's the reason I'm doing.
So
CS.
you sort of, it seems like you sort of want to go back to India and continue down the social entrepreneur path.
Yes. Once I pay back my debt over here, I'm taking like
Student
a good
loans.
amount of student loans here to study in Colombia. So once I
If
pay
somebody
back,
wants to fund his Patreon account, you know, I'm going to attach that link there. But go ahead. Go ahead.
so once I pay back, I'm pretty sure I will get back to India
You
to
wanna
actually
go back
serve
to
the
India.
society. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean serve the society in the sense, do something good, like like something good for people around me and things like that.
Uh-huh.
So yeah,
Uh-huh.
more-
But tell me, go one degree further and tell me, like, how have you been carrying the social entrepreneurship angle? Just don't disturb the mic. How have you
Okay,
carrying?
sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. How have you been carrying the social entrepreneurship angle, especially in sync with what you've done up until here in New York City? Like, because you were telling me a bunch about how you got involved with the G20 and the I-20 for a bit. And I'm sure like that's fascinating for a 21-year-old to be, as you are in newspapers in every country right now. You're a huge deal,
yeah.
man. You're the most eligible bachelor I've had on my show.
And the
Tell
big
me.
deal is you call me over here.
Hey.
that's a
No.
really big deal.
No.
I haven't given this long. I mean, I didn't have this video conversation for like such
Never.
long time.
Oh, you've not? You've been on? Have you been on like TV and stuff before? Like news channels?
I've given few interviews, but
Hey!
not like
Hey!
legit like this setup. Look at the setup. This is like
Hey, this
this
is
is
just-
all fancy.
I'm flattered, man. But it's
Yeah.
mostly Colombia and Michael. They're the real heroes. I just talk.
that's
I just
good.
blabber. But so tell me, like, how'd you get involved in the G20? What was your role?
Okay, so you have seen my non-profits and everything. Actually, that I got into Colombia, like that made me come here to increase my education. Now it's time for my increasing my knowledge system or intelligence and
Right,
things like that.
right.
And once I got in here, I was surrounded by all smart people like you. Like there are like amazing minds around me, and I guess I met you the first day.
Yes, at
right?
ENSOP. Yes, at the
Yeah.
orientation program.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
You saw a brown face and you were like, brown! And I was like, brown! Yes, we're friends.
north and south.
North and
So,
south.
they
If
will
we have a rivalry we never address,
Yeah.
We have this
But at
tension.
the end, it's like north and south attract each other.
I mean, also like I've also seen like even Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, right, Nepal, all of these people when they come all this distance, they really do not bother with domestic politics at all.
True,
right? Like
true.
North and South India have their issues. I am hated in the city. I am hated so bad. People throw me out of taxis. People get into fights with me in bars just because of the color of my skin. It's in part racist, but it's okay. Like when these people come to my place, we fuck with them as well, so it's fine.
True. Yeah.
I mean, we
do
have a
that.
very
We do that.
diluted definition of what racism is construed with, and we carry it out with much love and much humor than as against the political correct environment of liberal arts campuses.
Oh my god, the words that you use in one sentence, it's like amazing. You have a great vocabulary, trust me.
You really think?
Yeah, I really, I mean, it's a fact, I guess. It's not
Bro,
about-
it's in part why that has happened. I've always been like a fluent speaker of English. You construe it with my age. So like at 14 I was decent, at 15 I was better, right? All of that. But once I got here, I've been listening to so many podcasts, and I've been listening to I've been watching so many videos of people, very smart people talk. I've been reading so much. It's helped me do it.
Nice.
And one of the basic things that I'm not sure how many people realize this is called real-time articulation. Is like I give myself time to think when I'm like when I stop before I speak. I've given myself time to construct a thought on the fly. Now that I have a thought, which everybody does in real-time conversation, I have practiced retrospectively walking back the road and putting vocabulary, putting words in place. So I am articulating real time. I am saying what I think real time. And as you get better with that, as you get better with saying what you think, your vocabulary automatically seems fancier.
Wow. I got the secret now to increase my vocabulary.
Now you
So-
know everything.
Yeah.
Now you know how to get popular.
True. Yeah.
No, so tell me the G20. How did that come to be and like stuff like that?
Okay, so, how did I get involved with G20? So I came to campus and I spoke to many people who are more oriented towards policy making in education, policy making in sustainability, or something which deals with the governments and things like that. So this is where I had shift in focus. Like until now, it was okay, social entrepreneur, serving the people and everything. But after coming here, I started seeing things in a macroscopic level. Like kind of, okay, if I change that policy, like if that policy is changed, rather than me creating, me putting efforts in direction, me putting efforts in direction towards developing this or developing this
Like an
education
environmental
initiative.
factor.
Yeah, instead
If you could change the dynamic of the environment, right?
That's
If you
true.
could- yeah.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how I started thinking, and it's like policies that matter. So that's when I got. So of course I had few friends and everything. I interned with the Ministry of Commerce during the summer. So through that, like while I was interning there, I served. Okay, wait, I'm confusing things up. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
Because I'm getting myself confused. Wait, how did I get involved with G20? Like many things happened last year, so I'm just
yeah. When you have too many
reminding.
achievements, you tend to get confused. That's fine.
I
You're
really don't
you're a
think so.
high achieving man. That's fair. You rest high on the social.
To be
hierarchy.
honest, I'm actually nervous about the system also.
You don't have to be. Think about it
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
conversation. It's like you and me, right? Tell
Got
me.
it, got
So even if you're wrong, that's fine. Like you can always correct yourself.
Okay,
later.
so yeah. So I had few friends here who were actually working with the global initiatives, the Global Roundtable. The Global Roundtable is an organization which actually holds conferences throughout the world. It like student conferences or politics and things like that. I got involved with those student organizations, and through them I got an exposure to how to connect with people abroad, like abroad governments in various level. I initially became like a content volunteer for Y20. Like
Y20.
Y20 is like the
Youth 20?
Yeah, Youth 20 is an engagement group for G20. So
Okay.
G20 has W20, Y20, B20, C20, and Women 20. W20 is Women 20.
B20 and C20?
B20 is Business 20, and C20 is Civil 20.
Okay.
So and L20 also, Labor 20. So these people frame policies in their environment, and
Then
those
they
sector of
suggest you to
people,
the G20.
and they suggest it to G20, and G20 takes necessary initiatives to form that as a policies which should be implemented by all the 20 countries.
Right.
So that's something the whole system works. And I got in touch with the person called Augustine, who's the president of Y20. And he asked me to be a content volunteer, like develop the content with respect to more education and sustainability, because my experience lies over there. So I could actually give him, few necessary initiatives that Y20 should take, and I've connected Y20 with Indian students, the volunteers, and everything. And during this process, they understood about my non-profit, like how I've served the country and things like that. And in the end, they were like, Suhas, come as a special guest for the Y20 and G20. So I'm like,
what?
this is good.
So,
So
for our guests, for our guests who don't necessarily understand what the G20 is, tell us what G20 really is. And then also, first tell me that, and then I'll have like more pressing questions that will engage you further. What is the G20?
okay, G20 is the full form is Group 20, or you can say Government 20 also. It's the collection of 19 governments around the world. Like India is part of them, US is part of them, and
What is the basis of the selection of these?
basically the heads of state. What I mean by heads of state is like the prime ministers or presidents of these 19 countries.
But like, how do they decide these 19 countries?
It
They
was
just came
formed-
together. They
Yeah,
just
they
came
came
together.
together
Okay.
very long.
Okay.
So every November or December, all the 19 country heads of state, that is the prime minister or the president, they come there, and those 19 people, they discuss how the 19 countries should gear towards. I mean, what policies they should take this year. So and they consult all the other 20s, the youth, the civil, or the women, or the B20 business 20. They consult these top people of each sector, and they get the policy list, the policy recommendations, I could say policy suggestions by all other 20s, and they take the final policies which should be implemented. So I think it's a good initiative by all the governments coming together, because if it's only India taking Indian policies, I'm pretty sure they won't know how the global is working, how the global countries are working. So it's better to see again in a macroscopic level of all the countries, and then take policies.
Oh, wow.
So that's what is G20 about.
That's what G20 is about.
I hope I was
No, you were articulated
as good as
enough, like-
Prakhar in speaking these words.
Okay, so now that I follow that, you were a special guest at the G20 that was held in
It
this-
was Y20.
It was Y20.
Y20. So it's basically called Y20 G20 engagement group. So these
Oh.
20s are G20 engagement groups.
And you were a special guest there.
Yeah.
And this happened over the summer
This happened over the summer, yes.
in.
In month of August.
No, I mean like in where was this?
It was in Argentina.
Oh,
It was
Argentina.
Argentina, Cordoba. It was a good city, but there's no vegetarian food there. I'm a vegetarian myself, and
Oh my God.
it
Hey, you
was.
poor man. I'm going to
yeah.
feed you some beef. I'm going to mess with your culture. Right. So, and you were there as a special guest. What were you essentially doing there as a special guest? Like, what's your responsibility?
Okay, so how this works is every country, like for the Y20, every country should assign 2 delegates. Like every country should assign 2 delegates to the, to the summit and things like that. And those 2 delegates are selected by the ministries, the respective country ministries and things like that. And I was not selected by the Indian government to represent India, but I was selected by the Argentina officials, the G20 officials, to come as a special guest and introduce the delegates towards how the policies you should take, basically to advise them or inspire them of what initiatives I've taken. So that's what is the work of a special guest. That
So-
I was not a delegate; I was a special guest there.
So,
yes.
like, you basically are like a. Do you basically preside over the hierarchy? Are you like over the hierarchy? Then you're there to like give a motivational talk. Like, you open the whole thing up. Is that what your role was?
It's not a motivational talk. Like I gave a speech on why it's necessary for the countries to develop investment promotional agencies, IPAs, to increase their foreign direct investments into the country. So that's something which have inspired people, the delegates, to take that as a policy recommendation.
Right.
So
Right.
because, and then you could ask me, how do I mean, what made me give the IPAs and things like that. So I know, I mean, like I was working with the Ministry of Commerce back home in analyzing their foreign direct investments. And during that, I understood the importance of investment promotional agencies, the IPAs, for every country. Because other countries are, I mean, most of the countries, they don't have the IPAs and things like that. And they could see their foreign direct investments going like this. But whereas you see India's graph, like increasing in foreign investments like this, like you can see, yeah.
So you mean the Indian graph is steeper than the other graphs?
Yeah, it's steeper than the other graphs. So, so yeah, I mean, I'm there for basically discussing various issues each country is facing, what policies are necessary for each country to take, and yeah, things like
What
that.
were your suggestions about the investment promotion boards and stuff? Like, what did you tell them about that? Like, what is your ideal model for an IBP or an IPA?
IPA. It's like each country government should have a governmentalized IPA setup for the country. And you could ask me, why should it be government? It can be something like a private IPAs. But the point is, when it's a government IPA, people will have trust in investing in that country. And suppose, like, let me tell you this: like, you are a person of the U.S. origin, and you plan to go and invest in India. And if a localite of India, or maybe if a normal person or a common man tells you why it's good to invest in India, you might not believe him. But if a government tells you, okay, this is a good place to invest for you, you would have that impact. I mean, the country would benefit from your investments.
Right.
So this how increases foreign direct investment. So
Right.
it's basically why government should set up the IPAs. So was my
objective of like the
Objective of
communication,
the-
because I was in Punjab. I was working with the Punjab Investment Promotion Board as well for a while.
Nice.
And I hung around there for a bit, and the way they do it is very interesting. They create like a they take a cross section out of all governmental organizations that is required, the approval of which is required for investment to flow through in the state, and they create a parallel institution called the Investment Promotion Board of Punjab, so IBBP. And what they do is it's a single stop office where you can get all your applications signed and then move on to just invest, right? And because in contrast to all other offices, this office was high tech. This was like private MNC kind of an office, right? Just like you know, like how general offices in India, right? It's air conditioned. There's just A grade cubicles and stuff like that, and people just like very fluent in their communication, soft skills just on point. And the reason for that was because Punjab attracts a lot of investment from NRIs who live in Canada and India. NRIs is non-resident Indians, like people who live in Canada and United States, right? So they want it to look very fluent, and that almost bleeds into the credibility aspect of what you were mentioning. That's interesting. So you went to the G20, and did you also go to the I-20?
Which one?
The I-20? You mentioned something about I-20, or am I wrong? There's no I-20.
There's no I-20.
I imagine things. I have a very wild imagination.
Okay.
So and that panned out in the summer. I know, and ever since you've spoken at or inside the one UN plaza.
Okay, so
What the fuck? He spoke in the one UN. That's my dream. I've been running a podcast so they get me there. Hey y'all, if any of y'all know anybody at the UN, let me know. Fair. But
Okay.
tell us about it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you can get into UN with the way you speak, and that's what people require. So at the UN, we had a meeting, the Y20 meeting in the UN.
Right.
This maybe 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago. It was basically future of work.
Uh-huh.
The goal was how the Y20 youth and Y20 officials, like how we together can actually form policies which will increase the workforce, or maybe the quality of work and everything in future.
Right.
Like how will it be and things like that. What policies you should take. It might sound a little boring for a person interviewing in a podcast, or maybe, yeah.
I think you're super boring, but it's okay. Now that I have you on this couch, I'm going to continue speaking to you. So keep telling me. No, just
Yeah.
like keep telling me, man.
Yeah.
So you were basically mobilizing workforce, helping people mobilize workforce on a policy level, and that's what
on
you
a
spoke
policy
about.
level.
Dude,
So
that's
we spoke-
fantastic. Like, honestly, man, I know so many people, and all of them are like really competent people. I'm not talking about losers who just dream. I'm talking about people who really are getting their act together, who are doing shit, you know, who want to have had that accolade in their CV or in their life experience already, and they're far from it, including myself. I'm far from it. I extend a massive congratulations to you on that. Like, just being inside that building as a
Thanks.
guest, as somebody who's going to own a mic in the next 20 minutes. That's fantastic. That's flattering.